Like, I remember the days before Git when it was just like, I had a job. My first job, we weren't using Git yet, and we were naming everything final, or like final 3, final 5, lots of copying. And I tried to introduce Git at that place, and one of my coworkers was like, "Why not use Subversion? We should set up Subversion." And I was like, "Excuse me, like what on earth do you mean? Why should we like?" And my boss was like, "We'll set up a trial with both." I'm like, "Great, I'll sign up an account for us at GitHub, and you can sign up an account at Subversion Hub." Oh wait, oh wait.
I don't think I started using Git until probably this job. Prior to that, I was contracting for a company in the States that were in the oil and gas industry, and I was writing these programs that measured the PSI of the pumps, and like it was like a test safety bench software. At the time, I was thinking nothing of it. I was like, yeah, just SFTP this code on there, and if there's a rounding error, I might blow a pump up. But at the time, I wasn't thinking like that. I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and luckily nothing ever went wrong. But it's just crazy, the mentality back then, like cowboy coming out of university. Yeah, I could do this.
Yeah,
these things are only got 5,000 psi in them when they're pumping up, and whoops.
Yeah. Next thing you know, oh, massive oil leak. No.
It's the British guy.
I mean,
you couldn't do the conversion to freedom units. How dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
Hello, welcome back to Break. We are recording another after show, an actual after show. Matt and I recorded an episode of Break yesterday that'll ship. I don't know when now because now we're recording this, but you probably just listened to the episode with Alex Sims on it, and Alex is here to join us. Hello, Alex. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I wasn't on that episode, so this is a little weird for Break because I'm on the after show, but it wasn't on the main show. So
you were there in spirit.
I was there in spirit. I was producing behind the scenes, as I tend to do. And Matt is here, as you just heard. So, how do you think that episode went, guys? How did you talk about everything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think we covered everything and more. I think we explored all of the different angles that you could approach proposing something to a business. So it was good.
You don't have to be kind here. You can be candid.
It was awful.
This yeah, better. Good.
Like, I hated that.
Yeah, this is the break show. This is super casual here. You can be like, actually, Matt didn't ask me this question. Yeah. Drop the British. Yeah. No, I think it was good. I think we covered the topics we want to talk about. I think I didn't expect the main takeaway to be tie your work to business value, but I think that was a good takeaway for it because it's relevant to anyone trying to do any sort of change in a business context, you know?
Yeah. I always like popping in, listening as I was doing other stuff, as producers tend to do for podcasts. And yeah, there was definitely some good parts there. I was like, oh no, that makes a lot of sense. I think the ultimate conclusion of like tying things to business value. Because I think like definitely in my past, I've had the struggle of tying it to business value, but not tying it enough to politics, where I'm like, oh, this makes sense for the business. This is what we should be doing because it makes sense for everything. It'll save us lots of money and time. But I didn't look at the politics angle of people being like, how much people hate change. And they would be like, no, we're not going to do that thing. And I'm like, why? This thing makes sense. And they're just like, well, because last time we did this, people didn't like it. It was negatively received. And I'm like, okay, but that was last time. And that was a completely different set of circumstances. And like, here, I've laid out an entire argument for why this should work this time. And people be like, no, we're not doing it that way. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that sucks. Okay.
Kris, I was heartbroken before and I just don't want to commit again. Okay. I don't want to be heartbroken again.
Yeah.
It's not you, Kris. It's me.
It's like, we all know this situation really sucks, but at least it sort of works, even though it doesn't work at all. What if the new thing doesn't work? It's like, okay, then we try something else. Like, oh, progress.
Yeah, nobody wants to venture the unknown or be the ones to say, I vetoed venturing into the unknown, and now my reputation is also on the line. Yeah, it's hard to find people to agree to take the ownership of something.
which is deeply ironic because we are the industry that screams at literally everybody else about how much we love innovation and disruption.
Yeah.
Right. We are the people, we love disruption. And then we actually want to do disruption internally. And people are like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you want to disrupt things? That's not okay.
I was gonna say that, but I was gonna use iteration instead of like innovation and disruption. We're an industry where our very nature is to iterate on things and build it up, over time by making small incremental rapid changes. And when you want to make small incremental rapid changes, they're like, hold up, sir, you can't do that here. It's like, but this is software. It's malleable. It's not like I'm building a house where, I have to sort of plan a little bit more up front and do things like that. I can make these small changes and move the needle.
Yeah. I mean, we used to have bi-weekly release cadence, and it was the worst thing in the world. It was like 2 weeks gone by. Oh, now let's spend 2 days reviewing this 600 file, 50,000 line PR with all 8 developers just like combing through it. Oh, you missed a semicolon. Pre-linting. Yeah. And or you deploy that change and something broke, and it's like, well, we've not got observability yet, so I've got no idea which of those 60,000 lines just broke things. Whereas, yeah, once you get the infrastructure in place and people are comfortable, like just deploying multiple times a day becomes so much less scary. And it's crazy how many people don't deploy multiple times a day because they're scared of breaking things.
Yeah, I definitely had a job in my past where it just became impossible. Like, we couldn't release for an entire year because they were so scared. They're like, but the release is so big. I'm like, yes, but if we don't release, they will always be big and painful. So you need to release in smaller increments.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't. And then eventually I sat down and I was just like, no, we're going to figure out how to do this. And we started, and I like set up a whole thing. And there was a whole like, okay, we're releasing every week. And we have like deadlines, cutoffs of like, if you want your thing in, you have to cut it, like get in by this date. So you go to QA and all. And then we just started releasing every week. And then it was very smooth and like nothing broke and it was great. And yeah. And then we had a change in management. And then my manager was like, no, I'm taking over. And I was like, okay. And then it all fell apart. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks.
We used to
I don't know.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, I don't know why organizations are so allergic to shipping things quickly and like getting changes kind of it's a flow, right? Things are constantly in motion and deploying and whatnot, and when something breaks, it's a smaller surface area to fix because smaller number of changes to be rolled back or to be modified or whatever. But the average company, like if you line up all the companies and like just picked one at random, they probably can't deploy a change today. Like even the simplest of changes, like, hey, change this background color on your website now. They can't even deploy that today. That'll take maybe like a day or two of deployment. And it's funny that I'm saying that because, with the Series B announcement thing yesterday, there was like a news article that was using the incorrect name for our company. Essentially, they called us like Oxide Computing rather than Oxide Computer Company or whatever. And or just Oxide would have been better. And we asked them to make a change, and it took like all day for that change to be made. Literally like 8 hours before that change was made. And I was like, why did we do this in tech where a simple typo change takes 17 teams in a full day's worth of work to do? Like, doesn't that sound crazy? Come on.
Yeah, the fact that everyone's treating change management at the level that a bank would, well, maybe not a bank, that's extreme, but the amount of policy and internal like bureaucracy you have to go through to get something from, oh, it's ready, it's a one-liner, but it needs an entire day of QA on it. Why? Just analyze the risk of that change and also analyze what your rollback strategy is. And you should be, even if your background color broke everything, like you should be able to roll it back in a reasonable amount of time. And people, it's amazing how many people don't quantify that. They don't quantify their risk management strategy, and they paint themselves into this corner where they're stuck deploying once per week because of fear, essentially.
Yeah. It's got to be because the deployment itself is the problem and not the change. Like, the process,
no pipeline.
Yeah, the pipeline or lack of a pipeline or whatever workflow or step that does a deployment is not reliable or consistent or some other word there that describes this. And maybe they're just afraid of that. Like every time you click the button, the button is unpredictable. It's like AI maybe, right? Like where the same prompt will feed it vastly different results. And maybe they're just afraid of that. It's not your change so much, it's the act of turning the machine on is the problem.
Is it the lack of visibility potentially? And it sort of harks back to what we were just talking about. But I know we were a lot more cautious about any deployment we made ahead of having instant feedback. And also, I mean, I don't want to blow Kubernetes trumpet too much, but the fact that something's gone wrong, the deployment was healthy, but I can just attach via K9S and go, roll back to the previous deployment instantly, and everything's okay. I've had 15-20 seconds of downtime since the incident was reported. Not everyone has that luxury. And maybe a pipeline takes 10, 15, 20 minutes to run because maybe for whatever reason you open a PR and you decide to run your entire integration pipeline, and your smoke tests take 30 minutes to run or whatever, and you can't roll back in an instant. There's a multitude of things, I guess, that
I think
cause that.
A lot of it boils down to a lack of information. Like, we as an industry are very bad at doing good risk management and good understanding of what risks are happening and what risk is. And then we are also very bad at moving information around so everybody that's involved understands what's happening. Like, there's a lot of left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in tech. That happens a lot, especially between development and operations. That's why we got DevOps in the first place, was we need to bring more of the kind of rigor of dev to ops so that ops can function better. But also we need to stop throwing stuff over the wall at ops and expecting them to magic it into something that works. Because that naturally makes ops be no, we don't want to deploy, because when we deploy, it's a mess because they don't have the rigor that the development team usually had, or the development team didn't test what they were doing in a rigorous enough way. So it winds up falling over in production, and then it's ops' fault, and ops has to deal with it, and they don't want to deal with it. So they're just once a week, you can deploy once a week, because then we can just dedicate people for that one day a week to actually make this work. So I think a lot of the time it's a lack of information and just a lack of process. Most of the people in management have no idea how to design good process, or what it means to have good process, or how to evaluate if the process is working, because they were most likely all engineers or something like that.
You know me, I like to apply things to the real world and make analogies, right? So I'm going to make one here. Imagine applying that to your life. Saying, hey, Kris, you could actually only walk every Friday. The rest of the week, you need to be seated or laying down. You can only walk on Fridays. What happens? Your muscles are going to atrophy. Your ability to walk is going to be hindered because you're not practicing it frequently enough to do, to be good at it. It's the same thing with deployments. If you're only deploying every Friday, you're going to atrophy in how well your deployments can actually occur because you're not doing it enough. You're not practicing it enough. And Alex, you mentioned being able to go into K9S and modify Kubernetes live and all that. We did that at Cockroach Labs. We were managing the fleet of Kubernetes clusters across, the entire company. And we have automation to roll out things across the entire fleet in a more staged way. But there were times where you knew what was broken, and you knew that you can fix it now in 5 seconds versus waiting 15 minutes for the automation to run. So what do? You go fix it in 5 seconds to limit the downtime, because you have the knowledge and you have the capability. And in many companies, that's a problem, right? Yeah. Because it's oh, Alex, how dare you? You went outside the change control process and you didn't fill out the form and da-da-da. It's but why? The process is there to enable us, not to block us. And I know it needs to happen. I've documented it. I'm not being reckless. I'm not going to go destroy these nodes. I'm going to fix it and then let automation kind of reconcile and catch up with it afterwards, because I'm faster right now than the automation. And why is that a problem?
I think it's one of those things as well. Like you were saying, your muscles would atrophy if you were just idle until Friday. It's the same thing as if you're not flexing the muscle of practicing deployment, you're never going to improve. And I think one of the things our business welcomed sort of quickly after we started adopting more frequent deployments was we move fast. We might break things, but we're calculating the risk ahead of deploying something that could break something. And if you've calculated the risk, you can quantify potential downtime and you can quantify potential cost of the downtime, then you've got a better picture of, is this worth deploying right here, right now? Or can it wait until we're at a quieter period of the day where it's not going to impact so many people? And I know I'm talking from a perspective of, we've got 6 warehouses, we are a 24/7 operation, and we have like probably about 600 people picking and packing with our system. It's not a huge amount of concurrent users. If you were scaling that up to a bigger problem, then maybe the risk changes. But you are still impacting a live operation. If you have 15 minutes of downtime when no one's picking orders, that might be several hundred orders that didn't get to go out that day, or several thousand that didn't get to go out that day. So
Right.
yeah, it depends on the business context. But I also don't think everyone is dealing at the scale where they need to be panicking so much about trying to flex that muscle, fail, learn. How can we do better next time? How can we roll back quicker? And you don't discover these strategies until you put yourself in the position where you have messed something up and you need to rectify it.
Yeah, you're not like Google, who can break the whole internet with a mistake. So
exactly.
Like, you're probably gonna be okay if mistakes happen, because mistakes will happen. And I think maybe another version of that analogy that you made, Matt, that analog, would be like, if you want to be like symphonies or like orchestras don't just play on the night, they practice beforehand. They have rehearsals, and each individual person in the symphony practices on their own a whole lot. They practice way more than they perform. And so like that practice makes it so that when they do perform, it just goes flawlessly basically all the time. And like that's what we should do. And it'd be much worse if you tried to like just do the performance without having practice beforehand. That would be insane to most people. It's like, you're not going to do that. Yeah. And if you only like practice one day a week, you're not going to keep your skills up to the same level as if you were practicing regularly throughout the week.
It's just these same businesses. What bothers me about this is like, I get it. I really do get it. I understand the fear. I understand the reaction to regressing back to like a weekly deployment, a bi-weekly deployment, whatever, like lowering the frequency. I get that. I totally get it. But then you have the nerve to get mad when another company like usurps you or something, right? Or like kind of goes after your market and is shipping faster. And you're like, well, that company is doing what we should be doing. Why are we not doing that? We're not doing it because you told us not to. What do you mean? Like, it's that sort of like jealousy sort of thing where if you see someone doing the thing you want to be doing, you will question like why you're not doing it, but you weren't doing it before because you like said no. You know what I mean? Like, it's that same idea, but companies use it like it's some sort of novel thing. Like, well, I'm Uber and Lyft is out shipping us because they're doing this, so we need to change. But you told us not to. It's okay. You know what? It's lunchtime. I'm gonna go get some lunch. Actually, I'm done.
Yeah, we're just very bad at holding management accountable for their own decisions and having them pay for the repercussions of their own decisions. Mostly because I think most people in companies have been trained to fear management. Because like they're bad at behaving as a collective, right? Because people are like, oh no, management, like if I don't do this, my job's at risk. And I'm like, that's not true though. Like most people, you're not gonna, like, it takes a lot for people to actually get fired most of the time. It's mostly the fear that like holds them in place. Like if you're that close to getting fired, if you make one mistake and you're going to get fired because of it, you should probably just find a better job, because that's like an extremely unhealthy environment for you to be in.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you are also part of making the company better. Like you need to do more work to actually be able to ship stuff and make things better, and also hold management accountable. Like people don't hold, you have to collectively hold management accountable. You have to collectively push back on them and really call out their own bullshit. Because sometimes, like I've been in so many places where it's like management makes terrible decisions, and then they're like, why is this happening this way? And it's like the Spider-Man thing where it's like, or like, is it Spider-Man? No, it is Spider-Man. He like pulls off the mask and it's him. It's like, oh wait, it's you. You've been doing this problem the whole time. Or maybe it's Scooby-Doo.
It's Scooby-Doo, I think.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo meme where you pull off the mask. It's like, wait, it's you. It's me. I've been causing the whole problem. And that's like management so much of the time, where it's like, yeah, you're incompetent, and we said that you were incompetent, and you made this incompetent decision. Why are you not getting fired? Like, why is it that we need to keep you around? Yeah, that's one of the big problems with companies that we just as an industry really need to reckon with, is that like most of y'all shouldn't be in management. You're really bad at it. You've always been bad at it, and we should actually get some people that know what the hell they're doing into those positions.
Fire all the managers. Okay, that's what I'm hearing. I'm going to Brian. Where's Brian? Brian. I'm gonna go. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like Brian's probably a pretty good manager because he's not like trying to loom over you and be like, you must do things this way.
Totally. Yeah. I actually haven't had a one-on-one with him yet since I started Oxide. Not because I don't want to or he doesn't want to, but because I know what I'm doing. Right. I know what my
Right.
goals are, what I'm doing, and if I need him, he's there. Like if I need him to talk about something, I can just message him and hop on a call or whatever. And I like it because sometimes that sort of forced process of like, weekly one-on-ones or weekly deploys or whatever, it does slow you down a little bit, and it does kind of introduce an overhead, a runtime overhead, if you will, of that's inefficient.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. You can apply this to so many things, culturally, technically, and I think you are correct that most managers probably just shouldn't be managers. Oh man, I feel it. I hear the notifications coming in now. Did you say we should fire managers? You guys are bad. I'm waiting. I hear it. I hear it.
I think it's the micromanagement though. The not wanting to allow your team to be autonomous, or just allow them the ability to be autonomous.
Right.
And when you get to that point, it really frustrates you and it hampers your productivity because you feel like you said you're being watched at every corner and you have no freedom to just manage your own work. And I've previously worked under managers that are like that. It's very frustrating. Then I've also, like, I'm currently working under a CTO who does allow us to be quite autonomous with our work. And as long as we're hitting our sprint goals and we're getting stuff out, no questions asked. And that's really sort of produced a very capable and productive team. Because, people don't like being looked at under a microscope. And all of our metrics are sort of calculated upwards and aggregated together, and no one's singled out. And it works.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too boils down to like people have this fear that because they don't know how to do their job, they think everybody else doesn't know how to do their job. So they're like, if I just watch you very closely, I can ensure that you're doing the job correctly. And also, so many people get promoted into positions because they were good at the position they were in before, but their new position isn't their old position. So they kind of default to trying to do their old position. Like this happens all the way up the stack. Like there's a lot of like, depending on if the CEO of a company came from the COO or the CFO, they tend to still try and do their old job while doing their new job. So their new person in that position is kind of hampered. And like that happens all the way down the stack where people are just like still trying to do their old job because they were good at that job and they were doing it for so long. And it's like, but no, this is your new job. You have this new job. You need to do this new job.
Would you like to try it?
Yeah. And so many managers, especially in tech, right? Especially like how many engineers become engineering managers? And it's like, you're not good at this. You are a good engineer. You're not good at management. This is not in your skill set.
I think tech is just like the most fluid, like just roles in tech are so fluid. They have no real meaning. Like you have developer, but like at the moment I'm acting like a scrum master, solution architect, engineer, something else. And I'm like, what am I? What is this role? It doesn't make sense. I've just absorbed all these different responsibilities. I don't mind it. I enjoy doing all the things, but there's no role to encompass that. If you were to replace me, what would you look for? Would you look for 4 people? Or would you try and look for someone with that exact description that doesn't really exist? And it's not just me. There's multiple people on the team that just fall into different responsibilities by virtue of being good at that thing. And yeah, I just feel like as an industry, your responsibilities just change from underneath you, and before you know it, you're doing so many different things that that's not in your initial description.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point there because we have a word for this in a different context and we call it founder, right? Like when everyone says, oh, I'm a founder, it's almost implied that you're wearing multiple hats, right? That you're doing kind of what was that? What they call it, founder mode for a while, right? That the stupid
Ugh.
thing that was percolating the internet. Um, you know, we talked about founder mode or whatever, and it basically just meant like doing whatever you need to do to push your company forward,
Yeah.
right? Today you're doing finance work, you're doing books. Tomorrow you're doing product work. The next day you're doing development or you're doing marketing, and you have to shift between those contexts because you're usually the only person at the company because you're the founder, and maybe there's like one or two people there, and you have to just fill all these roles. But that same concept also happens at a lower level of larger companies where you are technically the founder of your domain, of your product, of your org, of your service, whatever it is that you're overseeing. You are the founder there, and you are wearing those multiple hats. Yet we don't have a real role or word to describe that. We just say like, "Oh yeah, you're a software engineer," or you're
Yeah.
a PM. It's like, well, I'm not. I'm doing way more than that. I'm owning this whole thing here, from a code perspective, from a social perspective, from this, like I'm owning this whole thing. And you're right that it's harder to find talent because you don't even know what the role, you can't really well define the role because it's like a mix of roles. But also, if you're doing that sort of work where you're kind of like the founder of that lower level sort of system, you are often a high level experienced person, right? Like a staff level engineer, I guess is the equivalent. And technically, that person of that experience is supposed to be on the same level as like a manager or even a director sometimes, depending on how you level things. But yet they're treated as still hierarchy. And that's a problem.
Yeah. I think largely here we probably are more at the manager level, so it does kind of work like that, but it's just confusing how it just happens. One day you're sat at your computer developing code, and, and then you're an architect. It's like where did this even come from? Now I'm managing like multiple delivery teams too. It's like, okay, but it's the experience is kind of also welcomed. Like I'm quite happy to do those things. I think that's probably why those responsibilities end up falling onto me, and they're falling onto a colleague of mine, and we're both sort of at that same level where I guess we're like tech leads within our team. But it just sort of naturally happened. It wasn't through performance review and stuff, because I just feel like as the industry as a whole really struggles to define concrete roles, whereas if you're a teacher, you're a teacher. If you're a doctor, you're a doctor, or you might have a specialized discipline in healthcare. If you're a developer, you're either a mid, low, or senior, unless you're at like Microsoft and you got like your L9s or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. But we just don't have at the non-enterprise super megacorp level a good description to encapsulate all of the different roles within our industry.
I mean, I think part of it is that like what we do isn't something that lends itself to hierarchy. Like it's not very hierarchical at the end of the day. It's kind of just like, it's like we're all in this together and we just got to figure out like what are the things we need to get done, and then everybody needs to start doing those things. Like people need to pick up the things to start doing them, which is why I think it's a lot of it's connected to like, pay problems, like with Oxide, where you just pay everybody the same. This doesn't really matter all that much. You like have things you need to get done, and then as long as somebody's doing them, it's all good. And you don't have people being like, well, that's not my job, because like who cares? You're gonna get paid the same. Like, are you putting in the effort? As long as you're not oversubscribed, that's what matters. But at other places, you wind up having people that are paid significantly less doing like 8 jobs, and then the people that are paid more doing like half a job, and it's like, well, that's not really fair. But then you also, like, this system is never incentivized to document what everybody is doing or to document all the things that somebody does, because then the person could easily be like, hey, I'm doing 8 jobs. You need to like pay me 8 times as much. And people don't want to do that, because we could also go to a strategy where we just pay you based on what you're doing. But that would also require us to actually have an understanding of what people are doing, which once again, because our managers are incompetent, they have no idea like what actually makes a team run at the end of the day. Like every team I've been on, there has been somebody that is actually managing the team, and I don't think it has ever been the person that has the title of manager, right? Like it's always been somebody else that's doing most of the managerial work, and there's also somebody else that's doing most of the leadership work, and that is not the person that's like on paper the leader of the team. So it's just like, yeah, not like people are doing other people's jobs, and then if you even try to call that out, there's like this kind of reaction that the organization has, where it's like, well, this is the person on paper. Or when there's ever conflict, it's like, well, this person's the manager on paper, so you got to listen to them. But it's like, but they haven't been running this team. They don't have any idea. Like, they just want to make a decision, and they're wrong, but they think that they can make it now, and they shouldn't be making it, and then it just leads to problems, and then the whole team leaves, and then they're like, wait, what happened? And it's like, well, you didn't have the person that was actually running the team on paper as running the team. So much of it is
we're
just...
heating up now. Oh no. Oh no. No. This is so good. This is such a good topic. It's so true. We've seen it happen. Every one of us has seen it happen. We know who the person on paper is leader, and then when they leave the room, we're like, okay, what are we really doing now? We turn to the real leader. And we're like, what's the plan? It's so true. And I was just talking about this with my wife yesterday in the context of she's watching Suits. I don't know. She needed a new TV show to watch, and she landed on Suits for some reason. And in there, they were like, we only hire like from Harvard, right? Harvard is us. We are Harvard. We're like one and the same. And then one of the plot points of the show is that one of the people there didn't graduate from Harvard. He like faked it, and but he's in the law office. And my wife's like, why does that matter? Like, he's really good. Why does it matter whether he graduated from from Harvard? And I'm like, you know why it matters. People in a group don't like it when people outside the group join the group, right? Whether that be a social group or whatever. And in this case, like an educational group. Imagine what your exclusivity is when you say, like, you lose exclusivity when you say, oh, I'm a manager, I'm a director, but this person, this lowly senior engineer on my team is running the team. Your little in crowd is broken, right? You've let the outsider in without having to go through the same process you did. They didn't graduate from Harvard, but yet they have the same level of influence that you do that graduated from Harvard, and that makes you feel attacked or some sort of way. And I think that there's an element of that to this, where the people that are in power on paper are incentivized to remain in power on paper because that's their sort of in crowd. And some of them don't really have the substance to be a leader off the paper too.
I will say, I like the analogy you were trying to make, but that's also not why they were mad at Mike Ross. He's not a lawyer. That's the point of the show.
No, I know. Yeah.
He's not and that's why people are like, you can't be here. But yeah, they hide the fact.
Admittedly, I don't watch the show with her. I just come in.
We'll let you off.
That's like the base premise of the show. Like in episode 1, that's what it's just like, okay, like he's like a pot dealer basically.
Yeah, like some sort of con man-ish thing. Yeah.
Well, he has like a photographic memory, and he's like taken the LSAT for people many times, and so he like understands the law really well because he's read a bunch of law books, but he's not a lawyer. He didn't go to law school. He didn't pass the bar. So they like make it so he appears to be a lawyer, and then he joins this law firm, and then he's like really good, and that's like the whole premise.
Although after about 3 seasons of it, I got to the point I was like, I feel like it's just Groundhog's Day at this point. I'm just watching the same thing over and over and over again.
It isn't until season 4 or 5 when the whole thing shifts.
Oh, really? I might need to rewatch it because I stopped at 3. I was like, this just feels so repetitive.
Oh yeah, I feel like you stopped right before it actually, like, everything gets shaken up and the whole premise kind of shifts a bit, and then it shifts again. Like, yeah, the later seasons of the show get a whole lot better because it's not just this whole the first 3 seasons. Unless you watch, like, I watched Suits as it was coming out.
Yeah, me too.
So it was like, it didn't feel as groundhoggy because when you watch it over years, the experience of the show is much different than when you binge it. Suits is not a show that was developed as a binging show. It was developed as a traditional network show. So when you binge it, it does get a little boring after the first like 2 seasons. You're like, okay, we get this. How about we take some things up? Anyway,
I'm sure she's watching it right now, because I like, if when I eat lunch, I'll sit down while she's watching it and I watch an episode maybe with her, and that's it. That's my view into the show. So I missed the pilot. I missed most episodes. I have her catch me up on sort of some of the plot points. But that specific episode is when he was supposed to fire Mike Ross, because the higher up lady, I don't know her name either.
Jessica
she found out that she found out that he wasn't from Harvard, or someone tipped her off. I don't remember the full plot point there. And so that's where we got on that sort of subject of, like, the in crowd doesn't want the non-in crowd there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. That it is a great show. I love how they tried to do a reboot of it, and then that reboot just sank, because it's like, no, like, that show was from a very specific point in time, a very specific era, a very specific type of network and studio. You can't just like recreate it a decade later and expect it to work out properly.
Yeah, but my failed analogy, that's what I was trying to get at, is like that we see that in the tech world. We see that in any place where you put in a hierarchy and you put in some sort of like, you are the manager and you are the level above and you are the level below, and you get paid more, you get paid less, and you do more work and you do less work, or whatever it's supposed to be. The lines blur very quickly. Where you were saying, Kris, the people that generally get paid less or are lower level end up doing a lot of the work that the higher level people should be doing, and just aren't. And I agree with you. Like, most managers out there should not be managers, leaders, anyone who wants to like put them in themselves in a position of like power or hierarchy. You are bad at it to some extent.
Yeah.
Like, if we were to graph this in an observability chart, like the P90 is horrible. You know what I mean? Like, you're just bad at what you do, and that's okay because you can get better. But let's not pretend that like you deserve it either. You know what I mean? There's work that you need to do to actually earn that.
I think a lot of it is that people are naturally small c conservative. They're very like, they like homeostasis. They like being in this comfort area, and they don't like having to go outside their comfort zone. And like, that's where change happens, right? That's where innovation and change and disruption is, when you exit the comfort zone. You get out of homeostasis and you kind of pull yourself toward a new homeostasis. And that's a very painful thing for people. They don't like doing that. And I think the kind of underlying problem is that because nobody likes doing it, everybody's actually sort of okay with the status quo, right? Like, even the people that it massively disadvantages, I think for the most part, like, a lot of people like being the underdog. They like being the person that's just like, oh man, we failed, but it's okay, we were expected to fail. And they have like sometimes when they win and they're like, yeah, but like they can't deal with incumbency. They can't deal with being not the underdog. Like, this happens constantly. It happens a lot in politics, when like the party that's like always the underdog becomes a party that's now the incumbent, and they're like, oh, we actually have to do stuff now. It's like, yeah, you can't just be fighting against somebody else trying to do the thing and getting those 1 or 2 wins and be like, hooray. You just have to continually get wins. And people don't want to do that. They don't want to disrupt the whole system, because then they would also have to change. And that's like a big thing, not just in tech, but in society as a whole. Because it's like, one of the things that holds back a lot of, civil rights movements and things like that is that a lot of people are pretty happy with the way that things are working now. They would just like to adjust a few small things. And it turns out you can't adjust those few small things without tearing down the entire system, which is why we're stuck in this management loop, where it's just like, yeah, if you want to fix the problem with incompetent managers, you actually have to fundamentally change the entire way an organization operates. And people are like, I don't know if I like that. Like, people like having this nice career trajectory where they're like, oh, I started junior, now I'm intermediate, now I'm senior, now I'm staff, now I'm that. You just keep moving up. It's like, oh, there's a nice easy path for me to take. Whereas if you go with a way that would make the industry work more efficiently, it's probably the abolishing of titles as we know them and roles as we know them, and starting to get a system where like everybody has the same base pay, and then you add things on top for the extra work you're doing, and everything's very fluid and dynamic, and people are just shifting around, and there is no hierarchical power structure. Really, tearing down the hierarchical power structure is what we need, but people don't know. They don't like that idea. We're
scary.
We're very comfortable with dictatorships when it comes to tech companies. Like, I've had people be like, don't you just want one person at the top who can like give you the one answer and make the decisions? I'm like, no, that's terrible. That does not work. Like, that does not work anywhere. That certainly does not work here. This is why companies do not function properly.
It's interesting, because before we started scaling up as aggressively as we are now, we had like very flat structure. So I've seen the other side of it, where everybody is like almost on the same level in terms of who they can report to, who they can talk to. And as a small team, it was okay. But as we grew bigger, communication was just chaos. Like, the tech team were just getting hoarded by like sales and customer service, and there was no level of reporting. And it was just like, everything's on fire. And like, can you fix this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And there has to be some point where you form a hierarchy to sort of ensure communication flows efficiently through the business. It doesn't really impact the role as much per se, but I'm struggling with this, because the thing I liked about the flat structure was you can talk to anybody, you can interface with anybody, you could learn a bit about somebody's role, they could learn a bit about yours, And when you've got few people, that's quite healthy and everyone understands a bit about the business. But as you grow and more people come into play, it's not sustainable because you can't have one person dealing with queries from 30 other people that find your role interesting. You just become bottlenecked by communicating with everybody. So, yeah.
But like, I've been in so many organizations where the hierarchy doesn't fix that problem. There's still somebody that's like everybody talks to all the time, where they're just like drawing a pipeline to them.
Yeah.
It's like the problem you're identifying is just like we need better communication structures as we scale, because like the communication structure of just chaos works at the small scale, it doesn't work at the large scale. So you need like, okay, these are the people you talk to about this. But also I think largely the problem with communication in this industry is that, unlike Oxide, most companies do not write things down. And they do not write things down in a way that is findable. So the only way to get information is to go talk to somebody, which once again works when you're like 20 people. It does not work when you're 200 people, and it certainly doesn't work when you're 2,000 people. So it's like, yeah, you have to actually write things down. You have to document things. You have to record things. You have to have ways of people finding that information so that when you do go and talk to somebody, it's because you actually need to talk to them, not because you need to go extract some information out of their brain. So that's the thing that we need to fix in the industry. And I think across all business, I think this is a problem everywhere in business, where we just don't write things down, which is kind of hilarious because like in the old days, it was hard to write things down. You had to like either use a typewriter, write things by hand, and then use inter-office mail to like make things move around. And it was this whole big thing. And now it's just like, yeah, you can just like type things and just hit send and the person gets it instantly. Right. But it's like, that brings its own set of problems because now like the volume you can introduce is so much higher. So it's like, yeah, we gotta find a good middle ground, which is probably email. Like email is probably the place where we should be communicating the most and operating the most and having good systems. Like the development of open source software heavily relied on email for most of its existence, and that works really well to the point where like big things like the Linux kernel or in Postgres are still like fully developed on a mailing list. So it's like, we have the ability to archive this. We have the ability to index this information and to make it so it's searchable and usable. But you have to actually start with putting the information in a format that can make that work, and putting communication in a format that can work that way. And people would rather have Slack instead. So we're like, Slack, and then when everything gets chaos, we're like, we clearly need a hierarchy to make communication work better. So you build this on paper hierarchy, but then that never matches the actual hierarchy. So you have the shadow hierarchy that's like, okay, no, like actually you need to go talk to this person. Don't talk to their boss. Their boss won't be able to help you. Talk to this other person. So there's the shadow hierarchy that's actually the communication structure, and it's all just a big mess. Because once again, the people in power don't get trained in how any of this works. So, and they never want to hire people that know how this works because they think they can just do their jobs because they don't understand what their job is. Which is me saying, once again, hire more librarians. I will be on this soapbox forever about why we need to hire librarians in this industry, because oh my God.
Yeah, most people don't know their jobs. We're bad at writing. It's funny. All of these problems are solved with like good discipline, and nobody wants to like do the good discipline because it's difficult to do. Like, that's why discipline, right? It's hard to do that stuff. But the negative effects far outweigh the benefits, and I think most companies. This is why like my take on most companies are overhired. You know, they run too fat instead of lean.
Yeah.
This is why I tend to believe that take is true, because you have a large number of people just not doing anything, or just not doing the role that they need to be doing. And then other people are filling that, which makes them like, you know, if you have a good developer that's good with coding and whatnot, but then they're spending time doing PM work and they're spending time doing other work that's needed, it's necessary work, but you're automatically lowering their capacity to do development work. You know, and it's not like you have someone else doing development work somewhere else that can like help with that. So finding that balance and finding what roles are working well and defining them is crucial. But instead, we've littered companies with layers of middle management that are all out of sync with each other anyway.
Yeah, and those layoffs that come to get rid of the people that aren't doing anything never seem to actually get rid of the people that aren't doing anything. I've always been annoyed by that. I'm like, okay, I get it. You want to reduce the workforce so you can make your numbers look good. Why not do it in a way that actually gets rid of the people that literally sit around to do nothing all day? Like, why aren't you laying off those people? Like, oh, you have no idea. what anybody's
idea.
doing. So you can't actually do that because you have no idea how your organization works. And I was like, okay, well, that seems like a problem.
You heard it here. Kris advocating for layoffs. No. cancel.
Oh
No.
my God.
No, we should. There's a lot more to be probably discussed here, but we should save that for future discussions because I don't want to go too long on this on the break.
We can't keep doing this, Matt. We can't keep having this situation where we invite somebody on for one episode and then we're like, I guess you're coming back for 10 more because there's so much more to talk about. Like
there is more to talk about. And yeah, I think that's what's unique about this podcast though, is that actually is the essence of what we wanted to do when we started the podcast, is have nuanced conversations. And part of having nuanced conversations is during the conversation, you uncover more nuance and more things to talk about that you can't have fully like discussed in one sitting. So I'm okay with that. I mean, I know some people are like, you've had Steve on for how many episodes? Like, well, because there's stuff to talk about there. Sorry. Like, actually, no, I'm not sorry. It's just that's the reason why you have friends, right? You don't like get a new friend every week. So you have ongoing friendships so you can like talk about new things as they come up and have that resource. But yeah, so that'd be great.
Yeah,
it's
that's a long-winded way of me saying like you are welcome back, Alex.
that would be fun to come back. Like I say, you would just go, sorry, Steve, we're going to take your topic and we're going to farm it out to someone with their hand up.
Yeah.
See you later.
It's hard when you have a chronically online person that is a master of so many domains. It's like, I don't know where else I'm going to find someone that's mainlined Windows as their development environment for a decade and whatever. It's like, that's going to... Or it's like,
totally.
How many other maintainers of the Semver specification are we going to stumble ourselves upon? It's like, I don't know. It's hard to find these people when they're all just in one person. You just gotta take advantage of it.
Totally.
And he likes, talking a lot. So that's good, Got to take advantage of that. It also makes my job easier.
You can almost turn it into a drinking game of how many episodes can Steve spawn.
We really could.
It's going to be a problem if he keeps spawning 3 episodes for every one episode we do. That becomes, then we just have to have an entire podcast. It's just like, okay, I guess, or I guess that's how you get new hosts. I guess that's how that works, is that eventually you're just like, well, I guess you're a host now because you've been on so many episodes.
He's living Fibonacci.
Yeah. Or that's like a cubic function right there, right? Triples every time or something like that. Oh God. Well, before this break becomes not a break and becomes a whole podcast episode, we should probably close it out, round it up. Oh God, Matt, break is going to become its own podcast, isn't it? It's just going to become a whole.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying really hard to keep it short. I really am. That's why you hear me reminding us every episode, like we should end it here. But there's also, it's a different format though. It's a different format. This is a more casual, no agenda. We're just talking. This is more like a radio show in a sense in that regard, right? We're just kind of talking about general topics, where the fall through has a specific topic. So I think it has its place, and our listeners and viewers can tell us what's working, what's not. So
yeah. So viewer and listener, because this is a viewer first podcast now. So watch on YouTube. Put a lot of work at getting on YouTube. So viewer, what'd you think? How'd you like this conversation? How did you like the main episode? Let us know on social media or in the Changelog Zulip, on Gopher Slack, wherever you might find us. And with that, Alex, Matt, thank you for joining for this episode of Break.
Thank you.
If your manager's doing nothing, there's a support group for you.
Oh my God.
Goodbye, listener and viewer.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you again to Alex for joining us for this episode of Break. And viewer, what did you think about this? As I said at the end of the episode, let us know on social media. Give us a follow, send us a reply, do all that fun stuff. And catch you next time. This episode of Break featured Kris Brandow, Matthew Sanabria, and Alex Sims. Break is a Fallthrough Media production and is produced by Kris Brandow, and our beats are by Breakmaster Cylinder.